Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. And for this video, I wanted to give you guys a very simplified um, roadmap of how to become a backend or even full stack developer. But when I say full stack developer, I mean with a backend emphasis. Um, and yeah, this is all from a high school student. So no, I haven't actually been in the industry. Like, I haven't worked in the industry, but I know enough. I'm in high school and I could probably already get an internship if I wanted to. That's just the knowledge that I have, and that's why I decided to make this video. But so, first, programming steps. So, what you want to do first is learn HTML and CSS. So, as a backend developer, you don't necessarily work a lot with HTML and CSS, but for example, I I have created stuff with Django and Flask, and with both those frameworks, I was using a I was using templates to render out. Um, so basically, I was using HTML files that would be rendered out um, from while using Flask and Django. So while no, I didn't necessarily code like 50, like 100 lines of code in HTML. It was just I did need it to at least finish the website. Now, if you're going to learn how to create an API, you might not need to learn HTML, but if you want to actually show, like, have visuals on your website, then you're going to have to learn HTML and CSS. So, next up, I would learn Python. Now, yes, you could learn JavaScript, and yes, going down the JavaScript and Node.js path is an option, but I am giving this roadmap also while considering what I have done. So Python isn't necessarily, oh, you have to do Python after HTML and CSS. Honestly, realistically, I would say learning JavaScript is a better idea, but Python's an easier language. Python is, I mean, it's I feel like it's more of a lovable language than JavaScript. So that's why I would say learn Python after HTML and CSS instead of learning JavaScript. Plus, learning Python, you'll get the basics very quickly, and with JavaScript, you're actually going to have to learn all this more complicated syntax. And rather than do all that, it's easier and faster to just go straight into learn Python. Um, Yeah, so here's a big question. When do you move on from a from learning the vanilla version of a language onto learning actual frameworks? And it's when you're learning on your own, it's really difficult to know when you should move on. But the way I would start is learn from project-based tutorials. Don't learn from those tutorials where I'll like, okay, here's how you create a variable. Cool. Here's how you create a function. Cool. No. Like, you could do that, but it's more important that you learn from project-based tutorials. And later on, I'm actually going to give you um, two YouTubers who I watch a lot for project-based tutorials, because when you watch a tutorial where they build a project, you're at least learning what you're actually going to have to do. Um, instead of just learning, oh well, this is how you create a function and that sort of stuff. So next, I would say create a text-based project, especially with Python. When you don't, because that's a problem. You won't know when to move on from vanilla Python or even from vanilla JavaScript to a framework. And so that's why I would say create a text-based project. For example, I created a text-based game, and I know a lot of us are gamers. We play video games, or we have played video games, and that's why it's easy to go on to create a text-based game because it, and I'm just saying, at least if you're a gamer, this is the way that you should go with doing it. Um, or at least if you've played video games, this is how you should do it, because you'll at least understand, okay, I know what a game is, so this is what I want to create, instead of creating some random thing that you don't really understand. So move on once you know the basics, literally the basics. If you could do variables, classes, if you could do object oriented programming, if you could create functions, that's enough to move on. um, I'm going to try and create a project-based tutorial soon where you create a text-based game, and literally everything that I teach in that video, once you learn all that, then you can move on. It's like you're never going to be ready to move on. You just have to at least understand the basics and be willing to just say, okay, fuck it, let's go. I'm going to start learning the a framework. You can't just be scared to learn a framework all the time. But yeah. So what do you actually do? Like after vanilla Python or vanilla JavaScript, or well, actually in this case, specifically after vanilla Python, what should you do next? So as a backend developer, I would recommend Flask. Now, for full stack development, you might want to learn front end first. But again, I'm trying to explain full stack development with a heavy emphasis on backend, and that's why I would learn Flask. Um, it's very simple to create a Flask application, and that's why learning Flask, you'll learn the basics on how to create different things in the backend. And after Flask, I would actually recommend learning Django. So the reason I say learn Django after Flask is because with Flask, you can learn just basically the basics. So that's like how I would say learn Python before JavaScript, or it's that sort of argument. You know, when people are all, the argument of, oh, should you learn C or should you learn Python? With C, you start off with the complicated stuff. In Python, you start off easy. You have to make some sacrifices. And I'm honestly with learn Python first so that you know the basics and you could learn the more complicated stuff later. And I'm with that same mentality when I say learn Flask and then learn Django, because when you learn Flask, it'll be very simple, but you'll understand everything. And with Django, you're just adding on, oh, these are a few more things that you have to learn. Not a few things. There's obviously like a lot more to Django, but that's how I would say you should go about it. Next, you should learn JavaScript. So even as a backend developer, you should learn JavaScript, because unfortunately, that's the whole industry. As a Python developer, you should know JavaScript, because JavaScript is literally what they use in the whole industry. Um, so if you learn Python first, it'll be very easy to learn JavaScript. Maybe as a full stack developer, you might want to learn JavaScript first, but that's really up to you. Um, but yeah, next I would say learn React. So React is like the most popular JavaScript framework for front end development, and even as a back end developer, you have to, you should at least understand React, because like, yes, you're going to be working with Python and all the backend stuff most of the time, but you should know what the front end developers have to struggle with, um, So you at least know how how to build out your API more so that the JavaScript and React developers could have it easier, you know? Um, at least that's what I've heard. Because again, I'm not actually working with programming, but that's what I've heard. That I feel like that's probably the best way to do it. Plus, learning React, you could it'll help you create APIs instead of doing straight up Django and then render out the HTML. So it'll help you learn how to do more like production level code, basically. So how do you improve in programming? This is like because you don't want to go through like all the documentation and learn like everything on Python or something like that. And at the same time, online tutorials they won't teach you everything. So like how do you improve certain things that you don't understand yet? And well, to start, I would say learn with project-based tutorials. Ivy, and Tech with Tim, those two guys make some great stuff. Like um, I've watched um with Dennis Ivy, I've watched like three tutorials on how to create Django applications. It's just really interesting. Like, and I'm still planning on watching like three more videos, and it's like it's hours long, but it's worth it in the end. Tech with Tim, I've watched his video on how to create Pygame projects, and again, like that helped me watching a project-based tutorial compared to just watching like oh, this is how you create this. This is how you create URL routes, and that's it. And then, oh, this is how you create views, and that's it. Rather watch like an entire project, build out an entire project with these YouTubers. And there's also me. I'm going to try to do some project-based tutorials soon. I don't know how consistent I could be with them, so I would recommend Dennis Ivy or Tech with Tim. Also, Dennis Ivy has a tutorial on React and how to do React front end with a fast API backend, React front end with a Django backend, and React front end with a Flask backend, I believe. But yeah, like all that stuff really teaches you well. And along with that, I would say watch short informational videos. So I like to say I know a lot about Python, but the truth is I know probably like 50%. I don't know everything. And the way that I keep learning, because I'm done with learning pure Python, I'm on to learning these frameworks. So what I do, there's two specific YouTubers that come to mind when I was writing this out. So Indently and M Coding, those are two YouTube channels where they have like 5 to 10 minute videos where it's like, oh, have you heard of type hints? This is how type hints work. And it just teaches you like really quick. And honestly, I just have a whole bunch of those videos saved like on my watch later, and I'm like when I go eat or something, I just like put up the phone and I'm just there watching those videos. And yeah, I'm not coding with type hints all the time, and I'm not watching the video and then typing down type hints in VS Code because it's such small simple topic or small quick topics that you don't need an IDE to like do all that stuff. I literally I just watch like whenever I have free time, I just watch it, and it's like you learn this stuff, and most of the time it's this stuff that you don't necessarily use all the time, like it's there, and at least now you're more educated in your programming language. Um, but I think both those YouTubers are purely Python, and there might I don't know who to watch for like JavaScript and stuff. And I actually am not going to make videos like that because it's that's not my type of video, but or not my type of video to create. But that's how I learn small new Python stuff every day. But yeah, that's about it. So to recap, because I know I talked a lot, learn HTML and CSS and Python, and then learn from project-based tutorials, and learn from Flask, Django, JavaScript, and then React. That's where I think it's the best way to go about it. And short informational videos. Those are really good. They're really interesting too. But yeah, I'm going to be creating an HTML tutorial, HTML and CSS tutorial soon, and then after that, I'll start a new Python tutorial. After that, like way farther into the future, I really want to do like a Flask and Django tutorial. Hopefully, and hopefully this stuff could help you guys. But yeah, for now, that's all. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.